you're gonna break into. On you.
Talking Boxing with Billy C. It began as a podcast, went live on the net, and transformed into a full-blown empire. Across the web, on Fight Now TV, and on radio stations around the world. It's the only daily boxing talk radio show on the planet, hosted by the only guy with the balls to do it. Many have stepped into the ring. Many have tried to take the belt. And one by one, they've fallen. Another victim of the undisputed heavyweight champion of boxing talk radio. Talking Boxing with Billy C. is on now.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C studio in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calagione. It's time for Talking Boxing with Billy C. Good morning, good day, good evening. Whenever you're listening, hope you're doing all right. We've got a busy show scheduled for today. But first, this show is being brought to you in part by CAT's nationwide luxury transportation service. If you're looking for a limousine and you're someplace in the United States or even Canada, and you happen to want a really hot babe driving you around, well, then you need to give my girl Kat a call, 202-351-7496. That's 202-351-7496, Kat's nationwide luxury transportation service. Tell her Billy C sent you. But just remember, she's my girl. The show is also being brought to you in part by Campanaro and Tomkovich. If you're looking for a lawyer, use the ones that keep my ass out of trouble. That is Campanaro and Tomkovich, 845-221-4099. Let Campanaro and Tomkovich knock out your legal problem. 845-221-4099. The show is also being brought to you in part by my friends down at the Halftime Bar and Grill, Route 9, South Glens Falls, 518-792-4869. Great food, great people, drink specials all the time, and the secret Billy C hot sauce. Only one person has it, and we got to shoot him once he makes a few batches. But Craig, you got to ask for Craig. If Craig is cooking, you're in. Check it out. Let me know what you think of the Billy C hot sauce. 518-792-4869, Halftime Bar and Grill, Route 9, South Glens Falls. And finally, for all your boxing equipment needs, check out ringside.com. That's right. The show is being brought to you by ringside.com. The best in boxing equipment. Check them out at ringside.com. Tell them Billy C sent you. Demand a Billy C discount. And FYI, if you're a gym owner or even a trainer that gets a lot of equipment, drop me an email, Billy at talkinboxing, TALKINBOXING.com, and we'll get you even more of a discount from ringside.com. So, hey, programming note, reminder, this Saturday night's all right for fighting. That's right, we got a good show coming up. Nonito Donaire is taking on Tokashika Nikashoka. And the co-main event is Bam Bam Rios against Mike Alvarado. Great doubleheader right there. Immediately following that fight, immediately following the announcement of the winner in the Donaire fight, make sure you tune in to Fight Now TV if you have it. And if you don't have it on your cable dial, tune into BillyCBoxing.com. We're going to be doing a post-fight show live. We're going to open up the phone lines. We want everybody to be part of it. We got some ringside guests calling in. We also, I know right now, aside from some regular contributors to the show, John Iceman Scully will be scheduled to join us. So make sure you tune in as soon as the fight is over on Saturday night. Also, today we're going to be introducing a new segment. It's called the Boxing Hall of Fame in Las Vegas. In the ring with Billy C. and Steve Lott. I'm looking forward to that. We're going to give you a little introduction on what to expect. So that's coming up a little later on the show. Dax Khan is scheduled to join us a little bit later on the show. Please do me a favor and cast your vote for what time you would like to see the show. We are changing the broadcast time. It's definitely going to happen. Now, whether it's, well, then again, unless all you guys vote to keep it right where it is, we need your input. We do the show. We do the show for you, and we definitely want the majority. We've put some votes up before, and majority rules here on the show. So cast your vote. We're leaving it up an extra week. We have a close race right now, but please, if you haven't cast your vote, go up and cast it. If you know somebody that listens to the show occasionally, have them vote. Have everybody you know vote. And if your dog can hit with their paw and click a box and create an account, free. It takes 2 seconds. Do it. All right. We need the votes. So, another thing I want to remind everybody. The BillyCBoxing.com website is loaded with great stuff. I mean, in addition to the news on the front page, there's another section called Latest Boxing News, which you got to check out. And also some of the other areas. We have columns by some really great writers, some up-and-coming young writers. We're really staffing our writers and contributors with some young talent, some views on stuff today. So check out their columns. Become a fan, become a follower. Also, there's a section called Hot Interviews, and some of the big fights that are coming up in the near future, like the heavyweight fight between Audley Harrison and David Price. We have Audley Harrison's interview up on the Hot Interview section. We also, a couple of weeks ago, we had Seth Mitchell. He's fighting in a couple of weeks, so you can check out his interview. I mean, check him out. We do. Listen. I do believe we are the best boxing talk show on the planet, whether it's radio, TV, podcast, whatever. I think we're the best. But I'm gonna pat myself on the back as well. We do the best in interviews, man. We get the best out of these guys and gals. So check it out. Ava Knight is fighting this weekend. We did a great interview with Ava Knight. It's all up on the website, man. So if you missed any of this stuff, go check it out. It's under Hot Interviews. They're all right there. Just click it and listen. And by the way, it's just the interview, so you don't have to listen to all the other stuff. So definitely check that out. Like we do every day, we got several emails to read. First one comes from my man Sky Ice. He says, "Hey Billy, I love your show. I always wanted to be part of it. I was wondering." I'm sorry. He says, "I love your show and I love boxing." I'm sorry, I forgot that part. I always wanted to be part of it. Boxing, not our show. I was wondering, do you know any information on how I can become a boxing referee? Well, excuse me. Well, Sky Ace, I do know how you can become a boxing referee. Whatever state you live in, if I were you, the best thing to do is to contact your local state boxing commission. So, for example, if you lived in Nevada, you would contact the Nevada State Athletic Commission, or if you lived in Georgia, you would contact the Georgia Boxing Commission, whatever. Feel free to drop me an email, and I can hook you up with email addresses and stuff like that. You contact your local, your state commission, and ask them for an application, and ask them what the criteria is. You may have to do some boxing in the amateur ranks first. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. It depends on the state, depends on their requirements. So, love to have you as a referee. Love to get some new blood in there. We got some piss poor referees out there. So check it out, man. Go up to drop me an email, Billy@TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing.com. Let me know where you live, and I'll hook you up with some information on where to get to your boxing commission website. So thanks for the email, Sky Ace. Coming up, we also got several emails from, let's see. I got Given Quality. Right, this one looks like a long-winded one. This one looks like a fire and brimstone I'm about to get yelled at email from Given Quality. So let me wait till I come back from break from that. But just before I go on break, Errol Jarrett says, this Saturday, it's a must-watch fight. Ava Knight, the Lady of Boxing, versus Mariana La Barbie Juarez. He says, this should be a great fight. I agree with you, Errol. It's part of our Billy C. Challenge, and I will be giving all that information out to the challenge members, as well as I have all the rankings, the leaders, who won last month, all that happy stuff. I did not post it on the website. It will get posted today, I promise. But I am going to tell you who won and give you all that information. And get scolded by Given Quality, all coming up in about 2.
If you're in upstate New York and you need a trucking company, then you need Rosselli Enterprises. Rosselli Enterprises is trucking at its finest. They have it all: dump trucks, dump trailers, walk-in floors, flatbeds, flowboys, tankers, loaders, and a full line of roll-off containers for any job, big or small. Rosselli Enterprises is also the source for all your sand, gravel, and topsoil needs. Visit them on the web at RosselliTrucking.com or call 315-433-5115. That's 315-433-5115 and tell them Billy C sent you.
Are you ready, America? Then let's get it on with Fight Now TV. It's time, fight fans. Your channel has arrived. All the fights, all the names, all the action. From world-class boxing events to mixed martial arts showdowns and other combat sports matchups, Fight Now TV delivers the hits and more. Call your television provider and tell them you want to get it on with Fight Now TV. For more details, go to fightnow.com.
We've got a great matchup tonight. Fighting out of the left corner is the #1 ranked contender.
No, he is not.
I'm sorry, but who are you?
I am the IDO computer. I am programmed to provide only fair and unbiased boxing rankings. This fighter is the number 15 ranked contender.
Fair and unbiased boxing rankings? That's a new concept.
Actually, it is not. The IDO has provided unbiased computerized rankings for many years.
Well, we've still got a great fight tonight, folks. In the left corner is the number 15 ranked contender.
The IBO, the champion of integrity. Learn more at IBOboxing.com.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning.
And we're back. You are listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C show, and as you just heard, we had a little issue with the sound system, I guess. Like we like to say in the business, the fancy word is it shit the bed. Yeah, it shit the bed. But anyway, we'll correct that one. But you knew that was going to happen. I mean, we were having no problems for a couple of months now. So now I guess it's time to have some frickin' problems. But anyway, you are listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C show. And you're probably watching the replay on LDL TV. That's right, LDL TV. My man John. I guess I don't have a shot with my dream girl Dawn. So I guess guess we're going to have to look for a new dream girl. I got the email last week. Who exactly is your dream girl? Well, I dream about every girl. That's my problem. That's the problem. With having dream girls. You dream about all of them. So anyway, we'll be keeping our fingers crossed for Dawn. But anyway, given quality, he's got a couple of emails now. This was when Alex was on the other day. He says, what are you two even talking about? He says, you are the older generation who have to be the ones that keep the fighters from your childhood days relevant. Just like the 80s and 90s kids are going to grow up being the ones doing the same thing. You and Alex are now 20 years from the same thing. The 80s and 90s are going to grow up doing the same thing you and Alex are doing 20 years from now. There will be a whole new generation of fans who believe their era of fighters are better and or on the same level. It's a history that will continue to repeat itself. Without video evidence, arguments are flawed by other people's opinions in the books. He says living in the past and completely not appreciating the present is a problem with critics. No matter what you think about Floyd Mayweather's path, he's naturally the most gifted fighter you have seen all around, offensively and defensively, and his mind. There's nothing scary in saying that. Does that mean he would beat every former great? No, but it's clear that he's not a flawed fighter like many other greats before him were. The majority of the field today, even the media darlings and top-rated guys, excluding a handful, have losses and or draws on their resumes. So why do you continue to harp on the O BS? The only O that means something for cherry-picking promoters and new champions from the mid-2000s to the present time who are crafting their way to paydays. Greats from the past have bums on their resumes also at a high rate, so don't front it like it was so much glory days and none of the politics from today's sport. Underground dirty market ran boxing back then in the day, and there were several fixed fights. Same MO applies today to those with the money to blow the control in the sport in open instead of a shadowed background. He goes on to say, without the internet created back in them days, things couldn't get exposed in an instant like they can today. Back in them days, it didn't become exposed for years after the topic was no longer relevant, so it was easy to forget and or just gloss over. Now the only thing I will say is there are far too many fake boxing fans that hurt the sport, but they are only created by the media. The media's biased propaganda. So stop elevating guys that are just B-level fighters into A-level league, and don't hypocrite when judging guys. Okay. Some of it I agree with, given quality. So I'm not sure. Where he's coming from there. But here's the thing. Let's address them one at a time. First of all, we were talking about the blast from the past, and we were comparing. We specifically were talking about old fighters prior to video evidence. All right. So given quality, you can't just judge from the video era on. That's a stupid statement. All right. So and you're 100% right. Every generation will always look at the one that came before them as being better, or the one that they remember as being the best. And I agree with that. And we've said that on this show many, many times. So I don't know why you're harping on that. I agree with you there. What I disagree with is that you can't use video evidence for every single fighter, because unfortunately, it's hard for a kid right now that's 30 years old, 35 years old and younger to imagine what life would be like without some of the technology that you take for granted, like video, like cell phones, like computer systems, like the internet, like all those things that we did not have not that long ago in my lifetime. And I'm not that old. I mean, I am old compared to you guys, but I'm not that old. I'm 50 years old. So I mean, you have to put it in perspective. So before television, before video, before you have this footage, What else? How else are you supposed to put these guys? You know, how are you supposed to rank them? You know, if you're telling me that they don't get ranked because you can't see video, that's a stupid statement. I know you don't mean that. Our point the other day was you can't just go by video with fighters like, and we use Jack Johnson as an example. The video from 1910 is so grainy and poor, and a guy used to crank it to film it, you know, and you'd get these varying speeds and crazy lights and all this other stuff that you can't really judge. So it's easy for somebody that's used to looking at high definition, let's say, video recordings, and then they go back and they watch a Jack Johnson video, and they're like, this guy's nothing. You know, look at him. He's hugging, he's holding, he's doing this, he's pouring, he doesn't even have his hands up. You know, and they don't see it. And occasionally you'll see him lunging forward, and you will get a bit of his hand speed, but then you wonder, is it really hand speed or is it the film? You know, so you have to go by other means. You are right, giving quality about the opinions of writers, and that's why I said, if you listen to the whole show, I said you need to write if you want to learn about a guy, and again, I'll use the example of Jack Johnson, or if you want to go to a Jack Dempsey or something like that, you read several of the books, several of encounters, punch up some newspaper clips, and get all the input, and then make a judgment for yourself. You know, you're also right about the internet and making things instant, the news and stuff like that. The shady past of boxing, that has been around forever, all right? Our point was simply this. And you're also right about the fighters and their schedules. You know, yes, fighters used to fight a lot more often, and they didn't always fight against knockout, drag-out killers. No, they didn't. But what I've said also a million times is that, you know, they didn't spar as much. You know, a modern era fighter, and I'll use the one that Given Quality loves, Floyd Mayweather. You know, he spars regularly. He's always in good shape, all of that stuff. But he only fights every once a year, every 18 months or whatever. And, you know, that doesn't mean he's not sharp. You know, he's sparring in the ring and stuff. Now, years ago, they didn't make $10 million like the upper echelon, in this case, only Floyd Mayweather, for every fight. So they were forced to fight and make a living. So they fought more often. But they didn't fight the killer main fights every single week, even though they fought once a week or once a month or twice a month or whatever. You know, they would still fight on an average maybe 3, 4, 5 major fights against very good opposition per year. All those other fights that they used to fight were tune-up fights. They were you know, money fights for them to make a couple of bucks to pay their bills. You know, boxing was a trade. It was something you learned. Now, as far as the O, you know, our emphasis and our talk about the O all the time is from your generation. Your generation puts the emphasis in the O's. You may only look at the only one that means anything as being Floyd Mayweather, but it's relative. The problem that many of us have with Floyd Mayweather is that he has cherry-picked his opponents. End of friggin' story. You can't convince me. I don't care what you do. Your biggest argument, given quality, you start off with Baldomir, and you say that this was a world champion. It was a guy who had a belt for years and years and years, and your version of the story is that Floyd Mayweather came in and beat him, and he's beat all the best guys ever since. And you name these guys, the Arturo Gottis and you know the big name fighters that he's beaten. But our point is he's always waited. And he's picked them at a point. He's bigger than them. They're done. They're old. They're this. They're that. You know, all those things. That is the problem with Floyd. And the issue of, you know, picking your days and stuff. Listen, Alex and I wasn't around in the 20s. You know, my age, what I was around, I was watching, I was watching Muhammad Ali fights on TV. You know, I mean, that was as young as... You know, when I first started watching boxing, that was the era. You know, Ali fights. You know, I mean, that was the era I watched. You don't hear me just talking about that era. I talk about eras way before. I'm way more interested in the early 20s and 30s and 40s of boxing. I just wrote a book on a boxer that fought in the 1800s, a freed slave. You know, I was captivated by this guy's story, and I'm even more disgusted that people forget about him. And as a matter of fact, you know, here's a guy that was a freed slave, and as you know, prejudiced as this country was, forget about the slaves, as prejudiced as it was, we used to have black champions and white champions. which is sickening. This guy, the guy I wrote the book about, not only was he was 100 years before Jack Johnson, he doesn't even get the recognition in the history books as being the first American heavyweight champion. Doesn't even get that. I was captivated by his story and the fact that it was repeated time and time again for the last several hundred years, and that's why I wrote the book. So I'm on to it, given quality. I know, what you're trying to say, but you're wrong. You can't just judge video, and you can't put a guy like Floyd Mayweather, listen, all-time great, maybe. And I've said 100 times that if you base him on today's fighters that are around him, he's above all of them. He is. I'm not going to deny that, but that doesn't make him an all-time great. My argument and our fear that we were discussing the other day was that someday people like you, given quality, and people like little Johnny, who's 25 years old, who's a boxing fan right now, is not going to remember the fighters that we're talking about. The Jack Johnsons, the Jack Dempseys, the Rocky Marcianos, those fighters, yeah, they may have heard them because of boxing lore, but they may not be giving them the recognition that they want. The Charlie Burleys, the fighters that deserve the recognition. I just am fearful that someday all we're going to hear about, and it's going to be long after I'm around, but the boxing fans are going to hear about are past greats like Floyd Mayweather, and it's going to be crazy that they're going to forget about the real fighters that use it as a trade, not the smart businessman like that you keep pointing out about Floyd Mayweather. Yeah, he's a smart businessman, but is he a boxer by trade? Is he a guy who learned his trade? Is he a guy who's learned in the ring? You're going to say, oh, yeah, well, he works very hard at it and everything else. Yeah, well, you know what? He's also had a lot of help learning the business, how to maneuver, how to position himself, when to fight for the most amount of money with the least amount of risk, all of that stuff. Things that fighters of yesteryear did not do. And whether they did it because they didn't know about it or what, I still think that they deserve credit. I think that they deserve credit for a guy. I think guys that fought deserve credit for fighting twice, 3 times a month. For taking a fight that they're not making a lot of money in, to take a fight against the best, to have that self-pride that says, I want to fight this guy. He beat me last time. I want to fight him again. He doesn't say, well, this guy, he might be too tall. Oh, he's a southpaw. Oh, he's this, he's that. No. That's our point. So I think you missed it. So I don't know. As far as the internet, I think the internet was the greatest thing for boxing, and it gives us results instantly. But I'm sorry, you're it's just redundant with you, and the Floyd Mayweather crap. Floyd Mayweather, give him credit right now for what he is. He's the best of the least qualified fighters we've had in 30 years. The last great era was the 80s, and I say this all the time. If people asked me back then, if I felt that they were going to that we were going to be in that era if we were going to be during the 80s, if people asked me if I thought I was witnessing the last great era of boxing, I would have told them they were nuts. I would have expected that as the norm, not a great era.
America? Then let's get it on with Fight Now TV. It's time, fight fans. Your channel has arrived. All the fights, all the names, all the action. From world-class boxing events to mixed martial arts showdowns and other combat sports matchups, Fight Now TV delivers the hits and more. Call your television provider and tell them you want to get it on with Fight Now TV. For more details, go to fightnow.com.
Broadcasting in all corners of the globe, on the web and radio.
He would scoff at the stretch of that man, I would think.
You're listening to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. from upstate New York in the good old U.S. of A.
Boxing is here to stay because we are here to stay.
The best 2 hours of boxing talk on the airwaves.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.kofantasyboxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man. www.kofantasyboxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.kofantasyboxing.com, and tell them Billy C sent you.
Now back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C., the only radio host man enough to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
Wait a minute, man. Hold on there. Jeremy, man, I need you to take this one, all right?
Wait, what? No way. I can't do this.
Need I remind you I'm Billy C., damn it? Now put on that mustache and get in there.
Hey, look at me. I'm Billy C. Crap.
The undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C.
Test 1 2. Test 1 2. My fellow Americans, good evening. Welcome back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It's great to be here discussing the sweet science with everybody. I love boxing. I love talking boxing. It's what I do.
Bill.
Oh, wait, what?
Bill.
Why are you interrupting me? What?
Wrong.
What's
wrong,
the problem?
Billy
What?
C.
I did not have...
We're gonna have to ask
wrong
you.
speech. What do you mean wrong, Billy C? What's going on here? Fine, I'll go. I just wanted to talk some boxing on TPSradio.net. That's all I wanted to do. I don't need your damn show. I'll get my own talking wrestling with the other Billy C. Yeah, that sounds good. I've always been a Hulkamaniac anyway.
Broadcasting live, brother. Welcome back to Talking Boxing with Billy C. on the mighty TPSradio.net, brother. What you gonna do, brother?
And we're back. You're listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C show. You're watching us on the Fight Now television channel. For all information about the channel, find it on their website, www.fightnow.com. Make sure you call your local television provider and tell them you want it. It's that simple. You can get it. You just got to ask for it. Fightnow.com is where you can get all the information about Fight Now TV. That's right. And speaking of Fight Now TV, make sure you tune in to Fight Now TV on Saturday, immediately following the Nonito Donaire and Nick Ashoka fight, which is going to be taking place on HBO. So check that out. 5 minutes after the final decision, we will be going live on Fight Now. And if you don't get Fight Now, you can check it out on BillyCBoxing.com. We'll be streaming it, but those are the only two places you can be able to get it. So, we got another email. I'm not even going to say it. I just get so frustrated with this Floyd Mayweather crap. That's why I can't stand him, because of the fans. It's like in other sports. I'm a Jets fan, which I hate to admit, and I'm a Mets fan, which I hate to admit even more. And it seems like when there's other teams in other sports that have this kind of fan that you can't stand, and you end up hating the teams because of their fans, And it's like that. Even though I'm from New York, and a lot of people like the Yankees, I hate the Yankees because the Yankee fans are generally the most obnoxious people on the planet, and so are their football, the same fan as a Giant fan, but here's the funny part. Those same kinds of fans, as much as they hate their rival, Boston Red Sox, the Boston Red Sox fans are the same as the Yankee fans. They just like different teams. Well, the Mayweather fans are the most unlikable people, because they're just so blind. They think this guy's like a cult figure to them. And if he could fight half as much as they back him, and we'll never know. And this email from Biggerback may put it in perspective. I think, the way it's written, maybe he means two different things. But right now he says, I disagree, Billy C., that the talent pool wasn't available for Floyd. So I think that line is basically telling me that Floyd could have fought the better fighters and he didn't. And he says if this were the 80s, Floyd would have had to have fought Costa Tszyu, Margarito, Pacquiao 3 years ago, a prime Cotto and a prime Mosley, maybe even Prince Ahmed and Casamayor. And he says, you see, the talent was there. And in boxing, you can never tell unless you step up. Maybe the one who beats Floyd isn't the one we expect. It's the Buster Douglas, the Barkleys, the Basilios, the dark horses who pull the upsets. And I think that Biggerback hit a home run right here. And, this is what I agree with 100%. And this is why we try to tell people that are just closed-minded, like giving quality. Here's the thing. You're right. And I'm not trying to say that all fighters of today are terrible. What's missing today, which didn't miss in yesteryear's fighters, and we've said this a million times, man. The bottom line is that, athletes today, based on nutrition and workout, procedures and just general health improvements of society, the athletes of today are better than the athletes of yesteryear. In football, in the NFL alone, you could use a very simple statistic. In 1970, which was the merger, the year of the merger between the AFL and the NFL, in 1970, there was one lineman that weighed more than 320 pounds. One, all right, in the whole NFL. And today, you're not even playing a line. Forget which side of the line. You're not even playing on the line. Unless, linebackers sometimes will line up and they'll be lighter. But a 300-pound lineman is a minimum. If you're not 300 pounds, you're getting tossed around like a rag doll. Just right there alone, that one statistic. And boxing's no different. Of course the athletes are better today. And that's the saddest part. If these guys actually fought with the frequency they used to fight in yesteryear's sport of boxing, man, boxing could be the greatest sport on the planet, which, I think it is anyway, but it could be rated that high if the fight is fought, but anyway, Biggerback is right. If Floyd Mayweather fought those guys, fought the Costazoos and the Margarito, Pacquiao when they were supposed to, Mosley when he was in his prime, Prince Ahmed, Casamayor, if he fought those guys all in their primes, when he had the opportunity to, when everybody was crying for those fights, and he still came out on top, then maybe we wouldn't have this argument today. The woulda, coulda, shouldas, versus he could have. He did it. Look, he beat Mosley. I don't want to hear, he beat Mosley. Oh, he beat Casamayor. Margarito, what did he need to fight him for? Because Margarito at the time was destroying people. Whatever. So, a great email from Biggerback. I couldn't agree with that one more. My man Dan, who's actually writing for us now, he's got a comment he wanted to talk about. But, check out his column. He's been doing some great stuff, keeping us up to date on the British boxing scene. He says, as far as Floyd Mayweather, I have a suspicion that there's going to be a Canelo versus Mayweather fight on Cinco de Mayo. I agree with you, man. I think that is going to be the fight. It does make a lot of financial sense. And, as far as Mayweather is concerned, I'm sure he sees that Canelo can be beaten by a guy just like Mayweather. Mayweather's style will be perfect for Saul Alvarez. And the reason why is because Saul Alvarez likes to line up and be right in front of his opponent before he delivers any punches. And Floyd will never be standing in front of him. So I like the fight, and I think Floyd beats him. And I think that Dan's right about that date. He says also Antonio Tarver, he should have done what you said and just admitted his responsibility, and everyone would have forgotten about it. He could have served his suspension and gone back to work for Showtime. I will add that, in my opinion, anyone caught using steroids should be banned for life, or like the Larry Amblawayo situation. He admitted he was taking enough steroids to give to an elephant, which would give him the ability to give an elephant a good fight, where he was banned for 4 years and all of his amateur and professional fight results were forfeited. If these sorts of punishments were handed out more often, then fighters would think they would think twice about the consequences before they use. Actually, Larry on the War Machine, let's just call him that because I have a hard time pronouncing his last name. I know they forfeited several of his pro fights, but I didn't know that they forfeited his amateur status too. But he's right, man. Now that we have the procedures somewhat in place, I think that I think it is smart for us to ban these guys for life. No question about that. No doubt about that. And finally, my last email comes from one of our unsung heroes of the show, Kieran O'Neill. He's a great guy. He's done a lot. I've talked a lot about this guy, and he's got a new idea for a segment. So I wanted to come on air and give him the credit, and we are going to do it. He says, I've been doing this. He says, I got a list of all the Ring magazine fights of the years from the 1950s all the way up to the modern day. And he says he's rewatching them in order. He says, I have an idea for you. Why don't you do that? Why don't you watch these Ring magazine fights of the year and then talk about the fights? That would be really cool. Guess what? I love the idea, Kieran, and I'm going to do it. So I'm going to put Kieran in charge. He's going to send me the fights he wants me to do. We're going to do them in some kind of order. And I will start to do that. It will be a new segment. We'll do it maybe once or twice a month, and we'll take a Ring fight of the year. We'll start off with the first one that they have, and I have them all, and we'll break them down. I'll rewatch the fights. I'll break them down, and we'll talk about it. Great idea, and we aim to please. So we're going to be doing that. Hey, I got a new segment that we're going to kick off here in a second, but first I got to give you guys the update on the Billy C Challenge. Right now, the winner for September was Ryan Kinsit. That's right. Ryan Kinsit had 39 of 43 picks for the month of September, which gave him a total of 91% winning percentage. The guy in second place lost by 1%. That's Johnny Robbins, 27 of 30. He had 90%. Ryan had 39 of 43. Congratulations, Ryan. Drop me an email, Billy@TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing.com, and we'll get you some choices on prizes. Now, the year-to-date leaders, which you're going to see posted up on the website later today, right now, in first place, the same guy. That's right, Ryan is leading the pack. He's in first place with 89% winning percentage, 57 out of 64. I'm the next guy in line pretty much with 54 out of 64 with an 84% winning percentage year-to-date. And then the third place guy, which is actually tied with Johnny Robbins, James Tonks, Blakely Berger. They're all tied. So Blakely, James, John are all tied for third place with 83% winning percentage. And the number of fights vary because of different, when they all got started. So congratulations to Ryan for winning the second month. He won August, and he just won September. And he's in the lead for the grand prize. So far, the monthly lead is for October, which was last week's fights. A lot of people. We're all tied at 80%. There's a lot of us. Me, Ryan, Jerry Murray, Blakely Berger, and Neil Thompson, all tied for first place going into October at 80%. 4 out of 5 we had. We had the one fight that was dropped out. We put up 6 on the challenge, so we ended up with 5. One was we had 7 on the challenge. One dropped out. It became 6. Then the one fight was a draw, so we crossed that off. So we ended up with 5 out of 7. So we only had 5 picks that were eligible. So therefore, myself, Ryan, Jerry, and Blakely, and Neil Thompson are all tied with 4 out of 5 at 80%. And the second place is tied between Alex Thompson, James Tonks, Dave Murphy, Marty Mulcahy, and Dax Khan, all at 60%, 3 out of 5. And rounding up the rear is Johnny Robbins, 2 out of 5 with 40%. And Robert Day, somebody better get a hold of Robert Day. He's got 2 misses already, 2 misses, which means that the next time he misses a fight week, which could be this weekend, then the zeros start getting averaged in. So, hey, I could see that we're going to start this new segment, so hang tight and enjoy. And we're back. You're listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C show. And don't forget, you could check us out on Fight Now TV. And if you don't have Fight Now on your sports channel lineup, you need to call your local television provider and tell them you want Fight Now right now. That's all you got to do. Pick up the phone and call them. Tell them you want it right now. For all the information about the channel, you can find it on their website, www.fightnow.com. And speaking of now, joining us, we're going to be doing a new segment, and it's going to be called Billy C. Boxing and the Boxing Hall of Fame in Las Vegas. Presents In the Ring with Billy C. and Steve Lott. Oh, wait. I can't even. Before I do that, I got to do this. This is what I got to do. And like I said, joining us right now all the way from Sin City is Steve Lott. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Billy. How you doing?
Not too bad, brother. Not too bad. We're going to work on that intro, so it all says it nice and easy. But glad you could join us this morning. And first and foremost, there's a lot of confusion with Hall of Fames. I mean, we even have our own little Hall of Fame, and most people look at the International Boxing Hall of Fame in Canastota, New York, as the Boxing Hall of Fame. But I've been in some deep conversations with you and about your ideas with your Hall of Fame. Tell us, what exactly are you doing in Las Vegas with the Hall of Fame? Where's it going? All that happy stuff.
Well, basically, the company I worked with for about a quarter of a century, Big Fights in New York, owned all the fight films in the world. And the owners there, Bill Caton and Jim Jacobs, always wanted to do a lovely state-of-the-art boxing Hall of Fame in a high-traffic location. The film library was sold to ESPN in 1998, but we retained the rights to do a boxing Hall of Fame. And having the opportunity here in Las Vegas, we thought that putting boxing on a spotlight in front of a huge visitation every year would be great for boxing. So we met some developers. They had a wonderful space at the Luxor Hotel, which they decided to put in every Hall of Fame, or almost every Hall of Fame, under one roof. So they have football, basketball, hockey, soccer, NASCAR. Because we own the ESPN film library, they asked us, let's put the new Boxing Hall of Fame here in Las Vegas. So we said absolutely yes. And the reason is key thing is to put boxing in a wonderful spotlight where many, many people can see it each year in a very high-traffic location and know that Lewis, Dempsey, Marciano, Ray Robinson are just as great as Babe Ruth or Jimmy Brown or Bob Cousy.
Now, one of the things that I want you to explain, and I know the answer to this because I asked, but with your particular Hall of Fame that you grouped together with the other Hall of Fame, the other Halls of Fame is actually the only one that's going to be on its own, right? I mean, like the Baseball Hall of Fame is going to give an exhibit for this. Am I right with that, or am I wrong?
That's absolutely correct. The other Halls of Fame located around the United States, whether it's football in Akron-Canton or hockey in Toronto, their main Hall of Fame is in their own city. Ours will be exclusive for this attraction. There'll be no other temporary exhibit that we'll put on. There'll be no other satellite exhibit. This will be the Boxing Hall of Fame. And when the spotlight is on it, once it's opened, the public will walk through and they will see these great legendary fighters. And eventually, not right now, but eventually, the spotlight will be the Boxing Hall of Fame.
I see. Well, that's great stuff. And, I mean, the thing about the Hall of Fame, and not to, say one thing or another about any other particular one, but I know from myself, my own opinion is, I used to love the Hall of Fame. I used to love going to a boxing Hall of Fame, but things got a little out of hand with the one that, I used to like to go to. And I'm curious to know what your backdrop, what's your idea of how this Hall of Fame is going to exist? I mean, what's your main goal here with the Hall of Fame?
Well, the main goal is to put a spotlight on the great, great fighters that came before. They're just as great, as I mentioned, as those great football, basketball, and baseball players. Now, the audience we have has to look at the Hall of Fame and say, this is pristine, this is elegant, this is sophisticated, these are the athletes, these are the participants, these are the inductees we expect to see. Not anyone else. not perhaps any spit bucket men or managers or promoters, fighters. Because without the fighters, there would be none of these other people, including me. Right now on your show, really, the only reason we're talking is because I worked with Mike Tyson, and I got a very, very good reputation working with him, but only because he was a superstar. The key has to be a spotlight on the fighters, nothing else, and the people working there, the people who are the advisory board, the nominating committee. They're very careful. They're like surgeons. They're going to pick and choose exactly the type of personality, the fighter, the greatness that should be in.
Now, that is a great segue to my next question. Do you have the criteria mapped out or laid out to what it's going to take to get in? That's the first part of the question. The second part of the question is, are you going to, when you unveil the Hall of Fame, are you going to go in with, a big first-year inductee list just to get the ball rolling and then cut it back? I mean, how's it all going to work?
That's a great question regarding the first inductions and how that would take place. That's going to be decided among the advisory board and the nominating committee. I'm just one of them. I don't know what type of initial induction would take place, whether it's a large group, as you just said, or whether they'll decide that for year by year they're going to do a limited number with a maximum that can be inducted over the last century and a half. Maybe their entire list will be 100 fighters, maybe. And each year a few will be put in. But of that 100 list, if someone is not in that initial 100 list, they will never, ever get in, much like baseball, football, basketball.
Okay, so are they going to have a time where they expire off that original 100 list?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Once they expire, there'll be rules and there'll be some type of mechanism that says after a number of years they cannot no longer get in, or if they're not in the initial grouping in any way, they'll never get in. That initial 100 list means those are the fighters that are possibly going to get in. Doesn't mean they're going to get in, but anyone not in that initial group, whether the initial group is 100 or 90 or 125, if they're not in that initial group, they will not get in.
Well, I can't wait. How close are you to opening up?
The exhibits are being finished now. I was there yesterday, and they have wonderful football stuff, hockey rink where you can hit the puck, NASCAR, a section where you can actually test yourself by pulling the wheels off. I would say probably November they'll have everything up and running, and you walk through from room to room, and it's quite amazing.
Well, that sounds great, man. I hope there's a grand opening, and get me out there, man. I would love to be part of that. And I got something to ask you. With a backdrop of what your experience is and what your specialty is, and you had the luxury, well, I guess you could look at it more than one way. You got to look at a lot of films over the last 30 years. I'm calling it a luxury. Maybe it became nothing but a work for you. But, you've gotten the luxury, I'm still going to use that word, of seeing a lot of the film and the footage and stuff. And you've seen a lot of different qualities along the way, from the older stuff right on up to more present day. What do you feel the impact that those early boxing films or footage of boxing events, what do you think that impact has made on the sport of boxing and continues to make?
Well, it's a good question. Early on, of course, from the turn of the century, from 1899 to 1900 and on, the film shot of boxing matches, because the fight itself, the ring, was a perfect stage. The camera can get very close. In films, you could see the actual fighters, you could see their skin, you could see the punches. Unlike baseball, football, where the cameras were very, in their Neanderthal stage, were very far away, you really couldn't see anything. So the promoters made the films, they shot the films, they sent them around the country, and fans over the years became enamored with these incredibly great legendary athletes, whether they were Bob Fitzsimmons or, of course, the Jack Dempsey era, and, of course, Joe Louis. Fight by fight, these were the people that they saw in towns and movie theaters around the country when football, basketball, baseball were in infancy. Now, of course, those other sports are huge. Boxing, fortunately, will stay in good stead because of the Hispanic audience. But those films that were so legendary stayed a very, very powerful force in boxing from the turn of the century through the 1950s. So I'm very grateful that those films exist.
It brings me to a pretty important question, really, and it has to do with technology. One of the issues that I'm always faced with, talking about boxing and being all of a sudden the older guy in the business, a lot of younger boxing fans come up to me and kids that I look at as kids in their 30s or even early 40s, and they have a view about who they think is great and stuff like that. But one of the things they use as a guide is being able to look at footage, watch film, the touchy-feely, I got to see it all, I got to watch this guy. Whereas someone like myself and even so much with you, too, before you started viewing all the old films, was that, I learned a lot about boxing from reading or maybe seeing a clip and putting it in perspective, or actually living through the technology changes that we've faced over the last 20, 30 years. Is there anything that can be done to those films that would enhance them so that a young viewer today could actually see the film and put it in perspective? Let me explain one step further before you respond. Jack Johnson is a perfect example. I love Jack Johnson. I think he's one of the greatest fighters of all time. And when you watch the footage of him, I don't think it does him justice. I think it looks, aside from looking grainy, the speed at which it was filmed is crazy, and I just think it gives the illusion that maybe this guy wasn't that great. Is there something that can be done with those films to make it more realistic, the way the technology works today?
Well, that's an excellent question. Right off the bat, the answer is no. But I want to remind you that when you read a book on William Shakespeare, it sounds very, very old, but it doesn't mean it's not great. The American Film Institute rates its 100 films of all time every couple of years, and Citizen Kane from 1940 is number one, and the language, the way people talk is very old in there. So there are things like that in other professions and other arts that are in the same way. So you have to look at it objectively and take the fighter like Jack Johnson out of the ring from the Stanley Ketchel fight and put him in the ring with a Jack Dempsey or a Joe Louis or Rocky Marciano and use your imagination. But that's what makes boxing so particularly great, that you can take one person, don't have to take an entire team like the 27 Yankees, and put them in there with 1961 Mickey Mantle and Willie Mays, or Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris. One fighter, Jack Johnson, how would he do against Mike Tyson? That's the wonder of boxing. It's one-on-one. So to answer your question, there's really nothing you can do except watch the fighter, watch what he does with his hands, watch what he does with his defense, and watch what happens when he lands those punches.
It sounds so elementary and so easy, and I wish people just said, oh, okay, when they get the answer like that. But I've dealt with fight fans that will argue with me until the cows come home, and you know how late they come in in the morning, But the bottom line is that they look at fighters of today like I'll use I hate to mention his name, but like a Floyd Mayweather Jr., and they're able to see all this footage, and I laugh. I say this guy couldn't have lasted any amount of time with a guy like Sugar Ray Robinson, even a crude fighter like Jake LaMotta. And they throw the footage, even though the 50s came, obviously 50 years after Jack Johnson, but even that footage doesn't do those fighters justice. I mean, how do you win those fans over?
It's a very good question about trying to get fans of today to observe the fighters of yesteryear. But it's much like the football fans of today looking at a great football player like Brady and saying, how would he do against Bart Starr or Jimmy Brown? Interestingly enough, in music, the musicians of today are always enamored with the musicians of the past. It doesn't seem like that in baseball, football, basketball, or in boxing. You can't take a kid from today or a guy who's 25 or 30 and say that if you took Ray Robinson from 1953 and put him in there with Floyd Mayweather, what would happen? Because they wouldn't know of Ray Robinson. You wouldn't know about Jack Dempsey versus Lennox Lewis and things like that. So it is very difficult, but that's why the Boxing Hall of Fame here in Las Vegas, in a major casino, right in between baseball, football, basketball exhibits, people will walk through. And while they'll see Willie Mays in the baseball exhibit, when they watch Joe Louis knock out guys in the boxing exhibit, Muhammad Ali running around the ring throwing jabs and Jack Dempsey drilling opponents, they'll say, wow, these guys are as good or better than the guys today. So that's our objective.
Well, hopefully that's exactly what we get, because we need that, and it needs to be presented in the exact way that it sounds like you're going to be doing that. So, Steve, I look forward to doing this segment with you as time goes on, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun, and I think we're going to be able to educate the viewers and listeners out there, and hopefully we'll get some traffic in that in the new Hall of Fame.
Thank you so much, Billy, for your time.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you next week.
See ya. Bye.
All right, take care. That's Steve Lott, and like I said, it's the Boxing Hall of Fame in Las Vegas. We're going to keep you posted as soon as they have all the information about the website and all that stuff. We will set up a link and direct you guys of how you can get there. I will let you in on a little secret. You will start to get some information about that through social media and all of that, and I will keep you up to date on that. Hey, listen, I got to take a break. We'll be right back.
Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. now has official merchandise available on TalkinBoxing.com. T-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, and mugs. And yes, even undergarments. Talkin' Boxing apparel is the perfect gift for the boxing fan in your life. Log on to www.talkinboxing.com. That's TalkinBoxing.com and place your order today.
Join us here for 2 hours as Billy and the gang do what they do best.
Every time I start talking about boxing, a white man got to pull Rocky Marciano out their ass. Rocky Marciano was good, but compared to Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano ain't.
Beat Joe Louis's ass.
Joe Louis was 75 years old when he fought.
Huh?
What?
We're supposed to be talking boxing.
It's Talking Boxing with Billy C.
As Billy C. sits here in the multi-million-dollar Talkin' Boxing Studios, sipping a fine wine before you're even out of bed, you should be thinking, damn, I wish I had a mustache like his. It's the Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. show. He's Billy C., and you're not. Sucks to be you.
Now let's dig into our archives and hear a rare interview when Billy C. first became the champion of boxing talk radio. Hello, Billy C. As the new champ, can we ask you a few questions?
Why, certainly.
Okay, your fans would like to know how you and your corner have successfully walloped the competition.
We're not ordinary people. We're morons.
Anything else?
I'm a victim of circumstance.
Did your success finally come when you made the show 5 days a week for 2 hours? What do you think?
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Now, please tell the listeners what you've learned from making it this far.
Certainly. If at first you don't succeed, keep on sucking till you do succeed.
Great words of wisdom, Billy C. Keep up the great work as the undisputed People's Champion with your show, Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. Any last words to anyone who's listening?
This is your fault, you bonehead.
And we're back. You are listening to the Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. show. And you're watching us on the Fight Now television channel. And if you don't have Fight Now in your sports channel lineup, well, then you need to call your local television provider and tell them that you want Fight Now right now. It's that simple. Pick up the phone and call them. For all the information about the channel, you can visit the website, www.fightnow.com. And speaking of now, joining us all the way from his mansion, wherever that may be. He's got the secret location of his mansion. He's been crying like a little baby that he wants some intro music, so we're giving him some. We're just giving him some good one. Dax Khan joins us. What's up, man? What do you think?
Yeah, that's not Barry Manilow.
Oh, I know. I couldn't get any Barry Manilow for you quick enough. I know that's your favorite musical
Great
artist.
stuff, though.
Yeah, so that's not bad, man. Listening to Shoot the Runner, I mean, that's pretty good. Maybe we'll try and make something with that out of you, all right? So we can, so we don't have to follow the Trail of Tears from my house to your house, you know.
Well, it's just hard every morning running around, get myself all hyped up, looking at some old Beatlemania shows, and I don't know, Bill. It's hard.
Yeah.
Too early for all that stuff. How's everything going today?
Not too bad, not too bad. Got some great fights this weekend. Let's touch on a few real quick. It's kind of funny, man. We've been talking about Showtime and how much, how great the matchups are on Showtime and everything else. This week seems like the old HBO matchups. They just don't seem competitive. Jose Pedraza, I know originally he was supposed to take on Alan Benitez, but that fell through. Now he's taking on Tevin Farmer, which seems like a pretty one-sided fight. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it pretty much speaks for itself, to be honest with you. I really have nothing to say on that, not to sound ignorant on the situation, but I haven't heard any reason why there was a change of opponent at the last minute, especially why such an opponent of a different caliber of fighter. I think they could have tried a little bit harder. I don't know, was it budget? Was it really that? Did they try that? Was it the old Rocky thing where, everybody else was all taken up, so Apollo Creed had to pick the kid from Philadelphia?
Yeah, something like that. They it was a last-minute sub. They found out Monday, I believe, so they had to take who was available, probably who was tested, and, I know all of that stuff. So that's still the main event. The co-main event actually is the best fight as far as matchups. It's Jonathan Cepeda against Lamar Russ. Lamar Russ has a good record, but I'm not so sure how good he is. What's your thoughts on that one?
Actually, that was going to be something that I mentioned in my wrap-up, that in my opinion, that might steal the show. Lamar Russ is a guy that you don't hear a lot about, but he's a darn good fighter, and he's pretty exciting. He can punch, he can box, and so Lamar Russ is one of those guys that has the ability to make a fight when you don't think there is one, as our friend Cello Man found out.
The other thing about this card is we're going to see some highlights of Jermaine Taylor. They're not going to show the whole fight, but they're going to show some highlights. And based on the opponent, they're being extra careful with Jermaine Taylor. It kind of scares me, Dax, because it looks to me like all the powers that be that are surrounding Jermaine know that this is a shot fighter, and they're very careful with it. I don't know what their plan is after this fight. I know they got to get it behind them, but what's your thoughts on him fighting? A, the fighter he's fighting, and B, fighting at all?
Wow, you must have read my roundup this week, and I don't even need to bother staying on the show because those are almost my exact words. Actually, what I have down in my notes is that, with Taylor facing off against a journeyman like Munoz, who has a 22-15 record, his last bout was over a year ago to a lightly regarded Jimmy Lang, and he lost TKO. He was deducted a point in the first round for spitting out his mouthpiece. He hit the canvas in the fourth, 3 times in the sixth. So Taylor is definitely in with a safety-first guy, as he should be, because Jermaine Taylor shouldn't be fighting at all, in my opinion, because I think I've said this before, and I say the same thing about Jermaine Taylor as I do about Roy Jones. Every time he's in the ring, every time I see a big punch land on him, I get skittish. Who was it last time? Was it Caleb Traub that dropped him?
I don't. Who?
Taylor? Or am I confusing that with the guy that fought Kelly Powell? Remember, he fought somebody really slightly regarded down south and 1 or 2 bouts ago, and he dropped him. Matter of fact, in my article, one of my articles I had, I think the topic of my coverage on that fight was Jermaine Taylor has last-minute flashback.
Yeah, it was Taylor's last fight. I thought he just got stunned. Did he actually go down?
Yeah, he actually went down.
Oh, okay. I don't recall that. Well, you're right. I'm sure you're right. Some other fights too, real quick, and we'll get into your roundup. David Price against Audley Harrison. A lot of discussion on this fight, and David Price obviously is an up and coming fighter. We got my girl Annie in the chat room right now, and this is a perfect time to ask this question. But David Price, up and coming in England, big guy, 6'8". I question his chin. And Harrison, depending upon which version of Audley Harrison steps in that ring, this could be a really good fight. What's your thoughts?
You said that you hit it right there. Which version of Audley Harrison shows up? Audley Harrison definitely has the experience. Audley Harrison definitely does have the ability to hang in there with anybody if he puts everything to work and can bring everything together. Listening to your interview with him earlier this week, he sounded like he trained very hard. What I liked about him is that he admitted a lot of his past mistakes. He wasn't a guy that made a lot of excuses. And, so we'll see what happens. As far as David Price goes, David Price right now, I have him in between Tyson Fury and Ty Fields. A big guy who might have some ability, kind of exciting, but then again, who knows? The first time his chin gets grazed by a good punch, he may fold like a piece of paper.
Yeah, well, that's what I think about David Price. I just don't think that he's all that. We'll have to wait and see. He's got a good jab, but he keeps his hands down a little bit, and he hasn't been tested. We'll see what Audley Harrison comes in. The big fights this weekend, of course, Nonito Donaire against Tokishaka Nikishoka. I think this is a huge test for Donaire. What do you think?
All those Japanese fighters that we don't see here too often are guys that, are often overlooked, and I think if Nikishoka, I know I'm saying his name wrong, is overlooked by Donaire, we can see an upset easily.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I don't, all those guys, all those Japanese fighters, and everywhere from super flyweight to super bantamweight, are all, actually, I should say featherweight, where Uchiyami, the guy that Adrian Broner ran from like a track star, they're all great fighters, and they all hit hard, and you know what, those guys train harder than these guys here do who are in the big spotlight. It seems lately, Billy, that these guys, whether or not they're originally from the States or they've just come to the States, sometime during their career as they've reached that next plateau, all of a sudden they seem to get lazy. Freddie Roach's camp is one that has proven that, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the other thing, too, with the Donaire fight with Nikishoka is that, I was saying the other day, I don't think Donaire has looked all that impressive since he's moved up the two weight classes, and Nikishoka's been in the junior featherweight division for a while. So I mean, he's actually, Donaire is actually fighting a bigger guy, at least in my opinion. At least that's the way it seems. So I think this is no layup fight for Donaire, and if he wins very easily and wins in dramatic fashion, I think he's gonna get back to where he was in terms of fanfare and recognition. But if it's a mediocre fight, like what we've seen in his last 2 or 3 fights, I'm not so sure if his if his value drops a little bit.
Nishioka, I've met both him and Donaire in person, and stood next to both of them. Donaire is definitely the bigger guy, but Donaire is also a guy who I believe is making that mistake of he's reading his own press. Which is a common thing that we see nowadays. Manny Pacquiao read his own press. Look what happened to him. I believe that all these guys in the last 2 years that have read their own press, Billy, every time you hear the word pound for pound, or one of these fighters hears the word pound for pound, all of a sudden they think that they're invincible, and they don't perform as well. They don't perform great at all. And you're right, Nonito Donaire has not looked good. And the last time he looked good, I think, is when he really put that hard punch on Fernando Montiel and had him in the ring twitching. And there is even a rumor there that I heard from people around that are close to his camp that he's a little bit scared to hit guys now because that really bothered him.
Wow. Maybe that could be the explanation of why he hasn't been that dominant since, and he really hasn't.
In last October, when I was at Gleason's gym, it was just before Donaire for Narvaez, and they were doing the a portion of the proceeds were going to breast cancer. Somebody had asked him exactly what he felt when he turned around and he seen Montiel on the ground and he was twitching like that, and what went through his mind. And he got real quiet for a second, and he tried to backpedal, and then he said real softly and almost in a stutter, he's like, I didn't realize at first, but then I seen what his hand was doing, and then I felt guilty because I was celebrating, and then afterwards I just wanted him to be okay. And then the very next month when he fought Narvaez, you could even see in that fight he just would not let it all go. He wouldn't let his hands fly freely until towards the end. But he didn't really, put any mustard on it. So that could be a possible thing that Nonito Donaire is actually afraid to hurt somebody, whether it's true, whether it's not. But I have heard rumors of that from his camp.
Yeah, that makes some sense. One last fight, very well, it could be the fight of the weekend. Could even be fight of the year. Mike Alvarado against Bam Bam Rios. I know you're not a big fan of Rios, and he's moving up here in weight. Do you think the edge is still with Alvarado now? Are you there? Well, it looks like we lost Dax. We will try to get him back, but that's the big dilemma that we have. I think that they have actually is the fact that you don't know which fighter is going to show up. Bam Bam Rios obviously was a devastating opponent for anybody that faced him as a lightweight, but then, as we all know, he started having some issues making the weight, and ever since then, we'll have to. We don't know. We don't know how he's going to perform. Did you hear my question before we lost you?
About Rios and Alvarado. I could still totally hear you, and I'm sitting there listening to you on the phone, and I'm hearing you saying we lost.
Right,
Dax,
that's typically.
I could hear you.
Right, that's typically what happens. I drop when we drop the call. You guys can hear me, but I can't hear you. So, what's your thoughts on that one?
I think Alvarado does have the advantage going into this. I think Alvarado's the harder puncher.
Yeah, and we know he's got heart. He's not going to quit. So, hey, give us your boxing schedule roundup.
All right. Starting out Friday at the Bell Center in Quebec, Canada. And GYM Promotions airs on USA Wealth TV. When in the main event, hard-hitting super middleweights Adonis Superman Stevenson and Don the Bomb George face off. Both men have won all but 3 of their pro bouts by stoppage. Both are on the cusp of reaching the next level. This bout is important for each fighter should they look to advance their careers any further in terms of value and in terms of becoming a world champion. So look for both those guys to give it their all. Somebody in that fight is going to get stopped because both guys have been hurt, they have been rocked, and neither one of them has really gone up against a puncher who comes at them like each other does. So that's going to be an exciting fight, definitely, in my opinion. David Lemieux looks to once again become a name of interest at middleweight. He's coming in on a 1-bout win streak after a 2-fight loss streak. Friday's opponent will be Alvaro Ganoa, and unbeaten heavyweight Oscar Rivas will also be fighting on that card. In Hamburg, Germany, unblemished heavyweight Dennis Boystorff, the exciting fighter with a question mark around his full potential, will face Konstantin Aric for the vacant WBC Baltic heavyweight title. Cruiserweight Rakim Shakayev defends his WBC Baltic cruiserweight title. I'm sorry, I made a mistake in that before. It's a WBC Baltic heavyweight title that Boystorff will be fighting for. And this is for the Baltic cruiserweight title. And he's going to be going against former light heavyweight title challenger Estefano Mendoza in the co-main event, and the undercard is scattered with potential new faces to keep your eye on as well. DeBella and Rumble Time Promotions join forces when they air on Showtime Boxing, card we were just speaking about, at the Ameristar Casino in St. Charles, Missouri. The main event features former middleweight champion Jermaine Taylor facing journeyman Raul Munoz. Munoz has a 22-15 record with 11 of the 15 losses by KO. In his last bout, which was over a year ago, he lost to lightly regarded, light-hitting Jimmy Lang via TKO stoppage, losing a point in round 1 for spitting out his mouthpiece. He hit the canvas in the 4th, and then 3 more times in the 6th. So Taylor is in with a safety-first guy, like I said before, as he should be. At any point in time, Jermaine Taylor just has disaster waiting to be flashed above his head. Lou DiBella swore that he wasn't going to let Jermaine Taylor fight anymore after the Arthur Abraham knockout, and Lou DiBella went back on his word. I'm very disappointed that Lou did that. I really gained a lot of respect for Lou, thinking, you know what, he cared about his fighter more than the money. Maybe I was wrong. Lightweight prospect Jose Pedroza is on the bill, and a very interesting, evenly matched middleweight bout will also take place when Jonathan Zapata, who has 11 of his 12 KO wins, facing Lamar Russ, that, like, again, as stated earlier, might steal the event right there, because Lamar Russ is a guy that doesn't look like much, but once that bell gets sounded, Bill, he really goes. And Lamar Russ has a lot of heart, and he has a lot of skill. I don't know why he's not promoted a little bit better.
Well, he's been in Chicago. I mean, that's where he's been fighting, and This is, I guess, the first time he's fighting outside of Chicago, I believe.
Now, I still think the guy's a better fighter than what's given credit for, and I think they got something there that, you know what, they're not using to their full potential. My personal opinion, of course, but, you know, like you said, fights in Chicago, maybe he just always looks sensational because he's fighting home.
Right. Hey, you said Dennis Boystorff's fighting this weekend? Who's he fighting?
Yes, Dennis Boystorff is fighting this weekend. Dennis Boystorff is going to be fighting Konstantin Erich.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be a good fight.
Erich, I don't know too much about him. I've seen him now and then on some undercards, you know, so I can't really give, you know, too much about him other than the fact, you know, he's a decent fighter. He does have 7 losses and none against, you know, world-class opposition, though they were early in his career. And again, though, that's why I mentioned, you know, Boystorff is the guy with a question mark around the full potential, because every time we get excited about him, something happens, whether it be an injury, he pulls out of a fight, he has a promotional problem. So let's just hope this one goes off, because I really do like Boystorff, and I really think that, you know, he is going to be the next Shagayev. Everybody's excited about him. And every time we think he's on a roll, something happens, and he ends up falling back for a while, and he's just going to end up disappointing a lot of us. And he's not getting any younger as time goes by.
Well, he hurt his hand. He was out. The recent one was a hand injury, but you're right. Shagayev had a bunch of injuries.
Back injuries all the time.
Well, Shagayev, what ended up really putting the nail in the coffin for him was that he's got hepatitis. And he can't fight outside of Germany because they're the only ones that accept the vaccine for hepatitis. He's got a form of hepatitis. That's why he he pretty much dropped off the face of the earth. That's why he only fights in Germany.
I forgot about the hepatitis issue.
Yeah, that's what it is. But anyway.
And Saturday in Kent, United Kingdom, super middleweight James DeGale defends his EBU super middleweight title against Hadira Muhammadi. Light welterweight Danny Dawes battles Vili Pispian for the vacant EBU light welterweight and middleweight titles. Light welterweight title, middleweight Chris Eubank Jr. looks to remain unbeaten when he steps in for his 7th pro bout. The card is brought to fans by Hennessy Sports and is going to be aired on United Kingdom Channel 5 TV. Frank Maloney Promotions brings us a BBBFC British heavyweight title main event when champion unbeaten David Price takes on former Olympian and world title challenger Audley Harrison. This might be the last chance for the 40-year-old Harrison to shine, even a glimmer, so best of luck to him, Bill. Because, you know, if Audley gets knocked out or he does not at least put up a top performance, you know, to the best of his ability that night, you know, Audley Harrison is just going to be, I think that's the last time we're going to hear Audley Harrison's name, in my opinion. You know, one thing I did like, as I said, when he was on the show earlier this week, he admitted to a lot of his past mistakes, and he said he's going to, you know, he worked really hard in this camp to correct them, but as the old saying goes, can old dogs learn new tricks? You know, I guess we're going to find out on Saturday. John Lewis Dickinson faces Shane McPhilbin for the vacant BBBFC British Cruiserweight title, and for the BBFC British Flyweight Commonwealth title, unbeaten Kevin Satchel meets Chris Edwards, and wrapping up the week at the Home Depot Center in Carson, California on HBO is the Battle of Unbeaten Brawlers. Light welterweight Brandon Rios meets up with unblemished Mike Alvarado. Mike has stopped 22 of his 30, Brandon has stopped 22 of his 30 opponents, Alvarado 23 of 33. Expect fireworks there. I think, personally, what's going to go in there is Brandon Rios is going to pull one of his old tricks, something he learned from his buddy Margarito, who's going to go in there and try and tire Alvarado out by eating up those big shots and think he's going to finish it up early. But personally, I think that's going to be the wrong strategy for him. Nonino Donaire is going to take on Toshiya Nishioka, and at stake is going to be the IBF Super Bantamweight and WBO Super Bantamweight titles, unbeaten light welterweight prospect Jose Benavides, and unbeaten featherweight prospect Eugenie Gordavich, and unbeaten lightweight prospect Jose Roman are also going to be on that bill in separate bouts. So a lot of names that are hard to pronounce, but it's going to be a great fight card worth watching.
It sounds good, man. Busy day. It looks like we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe 11. Looks like we'll have 11 fights on the Billy C Challenge this week. So that'll be good, man. And there's a lot of other ones that I could have put on based on your roundup. It sounds pretty good, brother.
And let me just say one last thing, Bill. I had written an article earlier this week about a scam that was, done to some fighters over in Kenya. by a gentleman who, really took these guys for a ride. He got all the admission. He put these guys, through a training camp. He misrepresented himself as somebody from Top Rank Promotions. And these young fighters out there really, really, really had their hearts broken. And these fans were really taken for a lot of money. And this guy, because of the way the laws go in other countries, it's not like here where, commissions will seek people out for criminal charges. This man got away with a lot of stuff. If at any point in time, anybody around the world who listens to this show should ever hear of something like this happening, let me know about it. Email me, Dax, D-A-X-X, at talkingboxing.com, and I'll out them. Because something, I want as many people in the world to know about these foul, low-life, slimy, so-called promoters that are taking advantage and using these fighters and, tearing up the hopes and dreams. Because this sport is hard enough as it is without guys like that out there, just totally just dogging these people. I put them right in the same category as the shady insurance salesman that goes around and takes elderly people for their life savings.
No doubt, and there's way too many of them in the business. But, yeah, it was a great article. It's up on BillyCBoxing.com. Great job, Dax. We look forward to you next time.
All right, everybody, have a great weekend.
All right, brother, take care. That's Dax Khan giving you his boxing schedule roundup. He also gave his thoughts on a bunch of fighters that for a couple of fights that we are coming up this weekend, and then of course on the last issue with the scumbag promoters. He didn't want to use that word, but hey, we might as well use it, right? But anyway, Murphy just asked me the one more question in the chat room, and now that my girl Annie can listen, she's been in the chat room, but she can't hear the show. I just want to give a shout out to Annie. I've been drooling over her for years, and I'm glad she's in the chat room right now. And, Murphy says to me in the chat room about the Arturo Gatti situation, and, he hit it on the head. He said he's going to get in, and whether he gets into the Hall of Fame or not. And he asked me if I thought he was going to get in the chat room, and I said, yeah, I think he's going to get in based on, or I feel he deserves to get in based on his contribution to the sport of boxing. I think the impact he made on the sport of boxing makes him deserving of a Hall of Fame. The argument is, was he a good fighter? Was he a top 10 fighter? Was he this? Was he that? And realistically, Rocky Marciano was a crude fighter. Jake LaMotta was a crude fighter. Neither one really possessed the sweet science. Jack Dempsey, same thing. And they're all in because of the impact they made on the sport. And I believe that Gotti gets in based on the impact that he made as well. And the thing is this, though. Here's the big key. The word that Murph used was the one I was trying to get away from yesterday, and that's popular. I don't want him to get in based on his popularity. I want him to get in because people recognize the impact that he made on the sport, not because he was a ticket seller, not because he was popular. If popularity gets our sports stars into their Hall of Fame, whichever field of play they're in, that kind of defeats the purpose, because how many times do you have players or fighters that are very, very popular, and maybe they're not that good, and they shouldn't be rewarded into the top reward that you could get for your sport, and that is a Hall of Fame. So being popular is great for ticket sales, and it's great for a lot of stuff, but I believe skills and impact on your sport is what should drive you, whether you're in a Hall of Fame or not. Hey, listen, I got to take a short break. When I come back, I got a bunch of boxing news to go over and get ready for tomorrow. For all the Billy C Challenge members, hold that thought. I'm going to read the winner of September again and who's leading. I did it earlier in the show, but I'm going to do it again, and I'll give you some updates on that. We'll be right back.
Talking Boxing with Billy C. Every week, 2 hours of the best boxing talk on the radio.
Mike Tyson looked like he put on some pounds. He was fat. He went into McDonald's and he just said to them, hey, give me 6 of everything on the menu. He put on 2 watches and covered 2 time zones. I'm talking fat here. Got on a scale the other day and it said, come on, one of you guys got to get off. Last thing I heard is that he jumped into the ocean and he left a ring around the continent. He's fat.
Boxing with Billy C.
Now back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. He may not have an Excellence in Broadcasting award, but the night's still young.
And he's got martinis.
So you never know what may be by morning. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C.
Talking boxing with Billy C.
The one, the only, Don King.
Makes me feel good, Billy, to have you, the number one show in the country, talking boxing with Billy. So I invite each and every American that's listening to this great show to tune in, because we want you to be there with Billy and me.
St. Jimmy's coming down across the alleyway, up on the boulevard like a zip gun on parade. Lights up a silhouette, he's just a buttonette, coming at you on the count of one.
And we're back. You're listening to the Talking Box with Billy C show. You're watching us on the Fight Now television channel. If you don't have Fight Now on your sports channel lineup, well, then you need to call your local television provider, whether it's satellite dish or cable, and tell them that you want Fight Now right now. It's that simple, man. Pick up the phone and call them. For all the information about the channel, you can find it on the website, www.fightnow.com. Speaking of now, don't forget we're doing a post-fight show immediately following the Nonito Donaire and Tokashaka Nikashoka fight that's taking place on Saturday night. So as soon as that fight is over, come on over here to BillyCBoxing.com or tune in to Fight Now TV if you have the channel. And if you don't have the channel, well, now's a good time to call and get the channel so you can watch our post-fight show. We're going to have several live guests that are going to call in, give us their thoughts, including ringside guests, world light heavyweight champion, his trainer, Chad Dawson's trainer, John Iceman Scully, scheduled to join us, as is a bunch of other contributors to the show. And better yet, you can join us live because we're going to open up the phone lines. So we want all of you guys to come on over. Even my girl Annie, who it's probably going to be like, 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning. You know, so make an egg sandwich, Annie, and tune into the show. So earlier in the show, I gave the challenge results because I've been dragging my feet a little bit. The monthly leaders for September, the winner again is Ryan Kinzit. You know, I'm sick of the same guy winning, man. He squeaked out a win, 39-43 with a 91% winning percentage for the month of September. Congratulations to Ryan. Ryan dropped me an email, Billy@TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing.com, and we'll pick out a prize for you. And a close second was Johnny Robbins, 27-30 for the month of September, 90% winning percentage. And rounding up the third place was Blakely Berger, 38 out of 43 for 88% winning percentage. Yours truly would have finished right behind the next guy, I guess, the fourth place. I had a 36 out of 43 going at 84%. And I know my man Dave Murphy's dying to know what he had. And guess what, Murph? You had the same as me, 36 out of 43 for the month of September at 84%. So we were down near the bottom. Now, going into this month, we got a pretty big tie since it was only 1 week. And, a bunch of us are all tied at 80%, 4 out of 5. Myself, Ryan, Jerry Murray, Blakely Berger, Neil Thompson, we're all tied for first place at 80%. And then the next group of people tied for second is 60% at 3 out of 5. That's Alex T., James Tonks, Dave Murphy, Marty Mulcahy, and Dax Khan. And rounded out the bottom, Johnny Robbins and Robert Day. Anybody that knows Robert Day, you better tell him he's only got 1 week to miss before all his zeros start getting factored in. So I'm sure he doesn't want to miss and drop to the bottom of the pack. Now, the year-to-date winners so far, the leader right now is Ryan Kinzit at 89%, 57 out of 64. Second place is Johnny Robbins, 29 at 35 at 83%. And also at 83% is James Tonks at 45 of 54. And Blakely Berger at 49 of 59, all at 83%. And I'm sitting at 84%. So the year to date, I'm sitting in second place. So that's the way it sits. It'll be posted on the website. You could check it out. and we will be emailing all of the people that are involved with the Billy C. Challenge this week's fights. And I'm telling you right now, real quickly, it's going to be David Lemieux against Alvaro Gagne, Adonis Stevenson against Don George, Jose Pedraza against Tevin Farmer, Jonathan Cepeda against Lamar Russ. We also have David Price against Audley Harrison, Nonito Donaire against Tokushiki Nakashoka, Mike Alvarado against Brandon Rios, Ava Knight versus Mariana Juarez, Shane McPhilbin versus John Lewis Dickerson, Rakim Chikayev against Epavino Mendoza, and Dennis Boystov against Konstantin Eric, which we're looking forward to. Great. It's going to be a tough one, man. That's a tough one. Speaking of tough, one of my favorite little guy fighters. Yeah, he's a little guy, but he's one of my favorite fighters, man. Former world flyweight, junior flyweight world champion, Giovanni Segura. I told you that he was coming back. I'm really psyched about that. And he's coming back December 8th. We got the date now. And we got his opponent. Speaking of Donaire, he's taking on Donaire. That's right, but not Nonito. He's taking on Glenn, Nonito's brother. Glenn Donaire is 19 wins, 5 losses, and a couple of draws. 10 of his W's coming by knockout. December 8th is when he steps in and takes on Giovanni Segura. 28 wins, 2 losses, and a draw with 24 knockouts. This is one of the most exciting little fighters I've ever seen, and I'm so glad that he's gotten back healthy and he's ready to pick up his career. He's still young, and I predict that he's going to be a world champion once again. The co-main event is another good one. I've been telling you guys about the WBF. The World Boxing Federation is really making a move. And, I told you within a year and a half, 18 months, and this was a couple of months ago, that they were going to be positioned themselves as being one of the, major sanctioning bodies that we're going to be looking to for quality champions. And, right now they're still cleaning up some of the, not so great champions that they had throughout the organization. But here's a great example. Recently, Juan Jose Montes just beat Ibarra for the vacant super flyweight belt for the WBF. Well, talk about staying busy and keeping your champions and making sure that the right people are representing the belt. Montes is scheduled to fight on that December 8th card, on the Segura card, as the co-main event, and put his WBF super flyweight title on the line against Sonny Boy Yarrow. Now, Sonny Boy Yarrow, if nobody's ever seen this kid fight, and they just look at his record, they're going to think he's not a good fighter with 34 wins, 11 losses, and 5 draws. But remember something, he upset a longtime champion in the division. He just recently lost his belt, but he was another world champion. So Sonny Boy Yarrow is no easy opponent. This is a fantastic fight, and the winner is going to represent the WBF proudly, I'm sure. So. Some other news, WBA cruiserweight champion Guillermo Jones they just cut a deal. Don King and WBA cut a deal with Panama and also Denis Lebedev to let him step aside and let Guillermo Jones get a mandatory title defense out of the way against Andre Taylor, which is scheduled for October 27th. And immediately following that, Denis Lebedev will take on Guillermo Jones should he win that fight in Venezuela on October 27th against Andre Taylor. Big chance, for Guillermo Jones. He's taking a chance here. I don't know why he doesn't take the money and jump into Lebedev. I'll tell you what might be going through his mind, that Lebedev might take his head off. Lebedev is becoming a little better a little better than people might realize, how good he is. So, a card that's coming on November 17th is actually one of the ones I was referring to earlier that, if you really want to check out some of these interviews we've done, like the Audley Harrison interview, he's fighting this weekend, and Seth Mitchell. We had a fantastic interview with Seth Mitchell a few weeks ago. It's all up under the website, BillyCBoxing.com, under the hot interview section. And Seth Mitchell is fighting November 17th, and this is a really good card, man. This is going to feature, it's going to be on HBO, and it's going to feature Adrian Broner, who's undefeated, 24-0, and he's going to be taking on, he's a former junior lightweight champion. Remember, he couldn't make weight, so he got stripped of his belt. but he's taking on current WBC world champion Antonio DeMarco, who's got a record of 28 wins, 2 losses, and a draw. It's going to be taking place in Atlantic City, and I love this fight. You know, Broner is a guy that they're really, trying to, basically tout as the new Floyd Mayweather. As soon as Floyd Mayweather gets out of our lives, we're going to be subjected to Broner. And here's the thing, I'm not so sure he's going to get by DeMarco, to tell you the truth. Some of the quotes that were made, Adrian Broner is trying to be a lot like Floyd Mayweather with some of his statements and his actions and obviously his performances in the ring. And they had a press conference yesterday about this fight, and Adrian Broner said, and I quote, "I'm not coming in just to win this fight. I'm coming in to knock DeMarco out. This fight is speed versus power, and it's going to be just another day in the ring for me. Going up in weight is going to be different, and I know he can hit, but you can't hit what you can't see, and I'm too fast and furious for him. Power is nothing if you can't connect. It's like moving a sack of rocks." Well, he's right about that, but talk to Jorge Linares, who was another guy who had lots of power and wasn't able to stop DeMarco. So, a fighter like DeMarco is a guy that that wears you down. He's similar to a Chavez. I'm going to use Chavez as an example, not that he's an elite fighter or anything, but similar. You start fighting a guy like that, and you're hitting him, you're winning, you're feeling good, you're in a groove, and then all of a sudden it's like the 6th round. And this guy's coming at you, and his punches are starting to sting a little bit, and you're getting a little winded, and now it's the 10th round, and you're really winded, and man, his punches seem to be getting harder and harder, and before you know it, the fight's over and you lost. That's the style of DeMarco, and I don't know, man. I love the matchup. I think it's going to be a great test for Broner. I'm actually giving Broner credit for fighting DeMarco. I know they're very confident and all of this stuff, but we'll have to see what comes up now. Antonio DeMarco had something to say too at the press conference. He said, "This is just another tough fight that has been presented to me, and I'm going to do everything I can to keep my title." He says, "Broner talks a big game, but he's never been in the ring with a hungry Mexican fighter like me. I wanted this fight from the moment it was offered because I know I'll be the first person to beat Broner and put him in his place. When I put my hands on him, he'll regret his decision to move up to my division." And, I agree with that. That's what I think. I think that Broner should have clearly taken another fighter on first in this division. I don't think he should have raced to get a shot at DeMarco. I think DeMarco is the real deal, man. I think he's the real deal, and I think this is going to be a really good fight, as is the co-main event, which is Seth Mitchell and Jonathan Banks, who were also at the press conference and had some things to say. Jonathan Banks says, I'm looking forward to stealing this show on November 17th. I'll prove what a true boxer is at the highest level and what they can do against a football player. The winner of our fight should be next in line for a world title shot. I plan on making sure that winner is me." Seth Mitchell, who's a class act, man, and I was really glad that we got to talk to him on this show. And again, if you missed that interview, go back and play it, man. It's under the hot interview section on BillyCBoxing.com. It's a worthwhile interview, and I think you'll see a side of Seth Mitchell. Like all of our interviews, we bring out a side of these guys that and gals that you've never seen anywhere else before. Seth Mitchell is a great example of that. I haven't re-aired our Al Bernstein interview that we did out in Vegas, but that's a perfect example. Even Sugar Ray Leonard that we did recently was, we had him cracking jokes and stuff like that. So, if you have time, go check out our hot interview section. I think you're going to like it for sure. Seth Mitchell said, "It's taken a while, but I'm happy to finally be back in action and fighting a great opponent like Jonathan Banks. I love fighting Atlantic City because I know my fans from Maryland and the D.C. area will be out in force cheering me on. I'm going to give them all a great fight." Looking forward to this, man. I like this one. Remember the whole Derek Chisora and David Hay thing? Now, you know how I feel about David Hay. Can't stand him, right? Can't stand him. I don't even think he's as good as people think. You know, he was a good cruiserweight, but he's yet to win in the heavyweight division. He's yet to win a legitimate fight against a heavyweight. Now, before you say Valuev to me, I believe he lost that fight. You know, but nonetheless, I mean, that's the only legitimate heavyweight he beat. Ruiz, Johnny Ruiz, was also a legitimate heavyweight, but he was way past his prime. And when he did fight Klitschko, we all saw what happened there. The Derek Chisora fight with David Haye was, I thought it was a good fight for David Haye. As a matter of fact, I think that was his only legitimate win. And because of it, I want to see more of him. But unfortunately, he plays the same deal as Mayweather plays. You know, he doesn't want to fight anybody. He only wants to fight for the big money, least amount of risk for the maximum amount of reward. I can't blame him when I put my business hat on. But the whole process that went on with that Chisora Haye fight and the Luxembourg Boxing Federation resulted in the Luxembourg Boxing Federation of really looking like the bad guys and the organization that had no couth, no class, all this stuff by putting this fight on, and all the press and what went on because of the David Haye being a girl and hitting Chisora with a bottle and all that stuff at the post Chisora Klitschko press conference. Well, the Luxembourg Boxing Federation put out a letter, and as a result of this, the main thing is the European Boxing Union, the EBU, suspended the Luxembourg Boxing Federation from being part of their little club, the little boys club, the little European Boxing Union. And the Luxembourg Boxing Federation put out a letter, pointing out and bulleting all of the issues that took place surrounding this whole incident. And I encourage you to read it. It's right up on BillyCBoxing.com. Check it out. And they make some interesting points here, and how it really boiled down to the BBBFC and the fact that, they're not honoring the free trade agreement in Europe, and that the BBBFC basically was pissed off at the Luxembourg Boxing Federation for putting on a show in England. And that was what it was all boiled down to. Even some of the people that were on the committee to vote against the Luxembourg Commission, Boxing Federation, were all part of other organizations that are all welcoming not only David Haye after his performance, but Derek Chisora after all of this. So I agree with the letter. And the wording is a little crazy because of the translation, but I agree with the general basis of that letter. If you haven't had a chance to read it, it's too long for me to read right now, but check it out. I think you'll and give me your comments on it. I think you'll enjoy it. Mike Tyson, Iron Mike Tyson, that is. They wouldn't let him in New Zealand, but Australia let him in. That's right. Australia granted him a visa. They gave it to him for 5 days. He's going to be doing a Day of Champions tour, is what it's being billed as. It's a charity. They're going to be raising some money for some charities, I guess. I know he's getting paid. But the bottom line is he's going to be going to Australia, and he's got a 5-day visa. And I guess he's going to perform this show. So congratulations to Iron Mike Tyson, and we'll see what happens with that. Another good one that was just announced that's going to be taking place is December 4th. Hugo Ruiz, who's the WBA's interim champion, he's going to be taking on their regular champion in the bantamweight division, Koki Kamada, and that's going to be taking place in Japan on December 4th. That, my friends, is going to be one that you're not going to want to miss. I think that's going to be a quality fight that's going to keep us on the edge of our seats, that's for sure. Another fight that may be taking place now, we all laughed, at least I laughed, about Celestino Caballero trying to position himself for more money. He ended up with no money, no fight, and no belt. And now it looks like, it has not been made official, but it looks like we got Nicholas Walters, who was the mandatory number one for the featherweight title for the WBA. He was supposed to be fighting Celestino Caballero, and now it looks like Dalius Prescott, who's a Colombian fighter, the brother of the other Prescott, is got a record of 26 wins, 1 loss, 19 coming by way of knockout. He very well may be the guy that fights Nicholas Walters out of Jamaica. So we'll keep you posted on that one. It's going to be up to the WBA, but it looks like they're leaning towards that. So I'll be looking forward to that one. I also yesterday we talked about Nathan Cleverly. Looks like he's going to be defending his WBO light heavyweight title against Ryan Coyne, and I think that this is actually a good fight. I talked a little about it yesterday. I like it. We don't have the actual date. Actually, we do have the date. It's on the undercard of the Abner Mares fight, November 10th. He's going to be coming to the U.S. He's going to be taking on Ryan Coyne. I like the fight for both of them. Ryan Coyne is known as the Irish Outlaw, so I'm sure a lot of his drunken Irishman buddies are going to be coming into the... I'm only kidding, Marty. Don't get mad. But anyway, I like this fight. I like the matchup. I think it's going to define Cleverly, and I also think that it's going to give Ryan Coyne a chance to show if he's the real deal. I know I talked about this on the I know I talked this on the Thumbs Up, Thumbs Down show that we did yesterday, but Vivian Harris retired the other day, and he's fought the last 4 years. He's hasn't been able to come up with a win. He's only 34 years old. He's a former world champion, made 4 world title defenses, successful title defenses, but of late he's looked nothing like himself. He's been on the wrong end of several severe knockouts, even a weird knockout from a headbutt. He retired, and whether I said this yesterday or not, I know I said it on the Thumbs Up, Thumbs Down show, but whether I said it on the Talking Boxing with Billy C show or not, kudos to Vivian Harris and or whoever has advised him to call it a day. I think it was time. I actually think it should have been time 2 years ago. But Vivian is a great guy. He's a gym rat. He likes to stay in shape and everything else. He claims he's lost the desire. I'm not so sure if that's it. But, a guy like Vivian Harris, I hope that Vivian Harris stays in the sport of boxing somehow, whether he gets into training or promotion or management or something. We need guys like Vivian Harris who know the way, the ups and downs of the sport. So I just want to give a shout out to Vivian Harris. You knew when to say when. Just please don't come back. Nothing against you, but don't come back. We want you to be able to enjoy life later on, and you've sustained some pretty serious knockouts over the last 4 years. So Vivian Harris, retired, former world champion, and a quality fighter. 29 wins, 9 losses, 2 draws, and 19 of his wins coming by knockout. South African bantamweight champ Vusi Malinga is going to be getting a world title shot when he takes on Jamie McDonald in a IBF bantamweight title elimination. That's going to be taking place October 20th. The winner of that fight will fight for the IBF belt. So he's in an elimination bout October 20th next week. So we'll be looking forward to seeing that one. And one last thing I wanted to mention before we wrap it up here is, the GBU, the Global Boxing Union, has announced, they did announce the other day that a vote to move all world title fights for women's divisions to 3 minutes. They feel in light of recent rallies of the professional women fighters across the United States and other countries to get more recognition. A lot of the participants, the top female fighters themselves, and some of the other people involved feel that moving their fights to 3 minutes would be more advantageous for the, for the popularity of the sport of women's boxing. And, I, for one, agree with them. I'm not so sure why they limited it to 2 minutes. But the only thing that we have with 2 minutes that I like is there's no room for feeling out. There's no feeling out. I would say feeling up, but that wouldn't be appropriate. But there's no feeling out room time. When you're dealing with 2-minute rounds, you don't have that first minute to just kind of piss away a little bit. And as a result, most of the female fights are usually action packed. So, I like the 3 minutes. I just hope it doesn't take away from our female fights that seem to be pretty popular anyway in terms of action packed. Action packed is what I meant. Not popular because they're not popular enough, unfortunately. But action packed. But anyway.
Wake up. It's time for the It's Too Early for a Trivia Question.
Today's It's Too Early for a Trivia Question is being brought to us by Gleason's Gym in Brooklyn, New York. Give them a call, 718-797-2872. That's 718-797-2872. Gleason's Gym in Brooklyn, New York. You can also reach them by visiting our website, www.billycboxing.com, and check out one of the banners you can't miss for Gleason's Gym. And check them out. Make sure you tell them Billy C sent you, and demand a Billy C discount. Now, yesterday's It's Too Early for a Trivia Question was, when was the first World Championship fight televised? Well, I got a lot of incorrect answers over the last few days, like a week or whatever. And Dave Murphy kept bragging yesterday on the in the chat room that he knew the answer. I don't know if he did, man. And if you did, Dave, more power to you. But I don't know if he really did, because a lot of people kept naming the Joe Louis fight and Billy Conn as being a championship fight that was the first one on television. But that wasn't correct. The correct answer was known by my man Harry Haskell. And Harry said that the first World Championship fight on television was September 29th in 1944. Willie Pep went up against Chalky Wright, and Willie Pep retained his world featherweight title via a 15-round decision over Mr. Wright. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the first televised World Championship fight. All the credit in the world to Henry. He wins a couple of unopened packs of boxing cards, courtesy of pugilistica.com. So thanks and congratulations to Henry. Our question for today, It's Too Early for a Trivia question for today is, and this is a fairly easy one, I think, because you can get the answers pretty easy. Who, and what's on the line today is we have a couple of more of those. I think there's 3 or 4 more of those Rocky Marciano commemorative phone cards that were issued in the early 1990s. One of them is yours. It's a collector's edition. There was only so many printed. Who is recognized as being the first world featherweight champion? Who was recognized as being the first world featherweight champion? If you know this answer, email me, Billy@TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing.com, and you will win that Rocky Marciano commemorative phone card, which shows him knocking out Jersey Joe Walcott. Sorry, James Curl. And, that's the way it is. Who was recognized as the first world featherweight champion? If you know that answer, email me, and you'll win the prize. That's all we can say. You'll win the prize.
This day in boxing history.
And finally, this day in boxing history is being brought to us by Campanero and Tomkovich. If you're looking for a lawyer, use the ones that keep my ass out of trouble. That is Campanero and Tomkovich. Give them a call today. 845-221-4099. That's 845-221-4099. Let Campanero and Tomkovich knock out your legal problem. 845-221-4099. And as usual, tell them Billy C sent you, and I'm going to pick up the consultation fee. Campanero and Tomkovich, call them now. 845-221-4099. On this day, October 11th in 1913, George Chip knocks out Frank Klaus in the 6th round to win the world middleweight title. And that took place on this day, October 11th in 1913 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Hey, man, that concludes our show for today. I got one more thing to say. You know what it is? Make sure you tune in tomorrow morning, same bat time, same bat channel. Well, there's only one channel. It's called the Fight Now channel. Call your local television provider and tell them you want the Fight Now channel added to your sports channel lineup. It's that simple. For all information about the channel, you can find it on the website, www.fightnow.com. See you all tomorrow. Ciao, baby.